Good morning. We have seen the jury show of the second semi-final yesterday night, and we will look ahead to the actual second semi-final of Eurovision 2021. I will talk with Stefan Gorkum and with Erik Bolks, who wasn't here yesterday on his birthday. I always do the same, since I want to, in Dutch we say druk mijn snor. I don't want people to celebrate and overreact during my birthday, so I always make sure I'm somewhere down under. But still, you're here, and we have to do it.
Let's do it!
Fijne verjaardag voor jou. Fijne verjaardag voor jou.
Fijne verjaardag, Erik Bolleks.
Alles kan met Erik Bolks.
Fijne verjaardag voor jou.
How does it feel being 37 again?
37?
Tonight again?
It feels really good. Yesterday I was at the Eurovision Village, the online village, and there was Kino, and they sung Happy Birthday to me also. It was really fun.
And you even took world-class star Sergei Lazarev. You made him go up on some stairs and do the dancing routine together with you. How did you manage to do that?
Persuasion, probably. I don't know. I had an interview with Sergei, and while I was interviewing him, behind us there was a staircase, and I thought, okay, this is my once-in-a-lifetime chance. Let's ask him, can we do the You're the Only One trick you did in 2016?
And he did it.
And he said, okay. So he counted down, and we went up the stairs, and we leaned back over, and ending up with You're the One. Really fun.
Private footage, right? Or will you use it somewhere?
Well, I already put it on Facebook.
The Facebook account of Erik Bolks, you can see Sergei Lazarev. And if this would have been the routine in 2016, he would have definitely won Eurovision with Erik on stage as well, just like with César in 2013. Anyway, let's talk about the jury show of... we're having a great time here. Let's talk about the jury show of last night. Steve, we did the vocal assessments, of course, in our in-depth article. And... well, there was way more than in semi-final one. When I look at my feeling, a clear distance between some acts.
Yes, there was, and I think that's partly because in semi-final one you had to look for songs that were classic jury food. There weren't that many. It was more a televote-friendly semi-final. And this time, the second semi-final has a lot more of these classic jury acts. And actually most of them delivered too, so that helped.
Switzerland was the one that really stood out.
Yes, in our opinion, that's the most likely winner of this show. Again, in the first semi-final, we called a clear winner in Malta's Destiny. Here we were a little bit less secure, but I'm still quite confident that Gijon's Tears will have won the jury vote in this semi-final.
Who impressed you most, Erik?
From what I've seen, Greece. Her vocals are spotless, and the act is really good. So my call would be that Greece wins this semi. It would be fun to have a different call for the winner.
Yeah. Is it extra impressive because when you know her age, she's still very young, but the way she also presents herself with the whole routine in the act and singing everything perfect on key, could that be something that juries reward even more because she's not super experienced?
It could be, and what adds to it is that she doesn't sell sex. She is just standing on stage being genuine and not selling her body or whatever. She's just singing, looking in the camera, being confident, and I think that's very appealing.
Yeah, appealing. I think, Steve, we're talking about the jury show, of course, but when we look at tonight, I think also for the televote, right?
Yeah, this can work easily work in both aspects. I think the pitfall is, or the danger is, that you think it's only for televote actually when you see it for the first time, because it has a lot of spectacle. And that's why it was so important for us to highlight yesterday that because she is so professional, this is also definitely jury food. This could be a kind of Mons factor because she's so confident with playing with these projections and doing her high-tech act. So yeah, I think this could do well with both.
Let's walk through the rest of this semi-final, starting with San Marino. The big man is here. Yesterday, it feels like longer ago, but yesterday afternoon was the first time we actually saw him. Flo Rida is here. How did he do?
I mean, he does bring some extra quality to the act. We've seen San Marino perform it during the first week with a different rapper who was fine, but this is a superstar, and he brings that appearance on stage. But maybe even more importantly, he has great chemistry with Senate. And I spoke to San Marino's press officer yesterday. That's something that you will see later today on ESC Daily, that interview. And he explained to me that they met randomly, but they had this instant connection with each other, and he spoke about it with a smile on his face. And then when I saw the performance at the rehearsal, I was like, oh, he wasn't lying. This was not some press talk. This is real. They like each other.
Yeah, he was standing there on the catwalk, and you could see him during the performance, Erik. You could see him just enjoying himself being there, and how big Eurovision is, because for an American, not many Americans know Eurovision, and I guess this is the first time he even gets to meet the contest.
Well, that's great, of course, because your EBU is trying to get a kind of Eurovision in America as well. So this could be a good promotion for that as well. And it's always good if a big artist enters Eurovision. So hopefully it will be at least successful to go to the final. So they won't be disappointed in that.
We have talked about Greece. Estonia and Czech Republic are squeezed in between San Marino and Greece. What about Uku Suviste and Benny Christo?
I think Uku was quite all right last night. He's had some trouble during rehearsals with some of the vocal chords in that song. Yesterday it was okay. He gave the juries at least some opportunity to vote for him, but he will still need a lot of televotes tonight to be in the mix for qualification. As for the Czech Republic, I've kind of written them off after last night, because Benny Christo, although he was better than the rehearsal week, we spoke about him being a little bit, a little bit laid back. He was giving more energy last night, but it still looked a bit laconic at times.
Agreed?
I haven't seen this one, sorry.
Sorry. What about Austria? When it comes to the song, you would say that's a typical jury song, and I think also the way they stage it, yeah, it ticks all the boxes, I would say.
It's credible, and I think they staged it in such a way to make it very easy for juries to say, okay, this is something that we are supposed to vote for. He's not giving away vocal masterclasses. He hasn't been doing that all week, especially in the verse.
What are you laughing about?
Well, he's being too friendly. It was just awful.
Okay.
I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I may have been he's fine in the choruses, but the low ranks of the verses give him trouble each time around. So that's an issue with juries, obviously.
Is Moldova directly coming? Yeah, okay. I was thinking, did I miss a country in between? You have Moldova, Iceland, Serbia, of course, and more up-tempo block. Moldova. Start of the song, and I can't remember during the first rehearsals that she sang it like this. It looks like it's a deliberate choice to actually.
She had an off day, I guess, yesterday.
No, but she also did it during the second rehearsal. It's a deliberate choice to sing like with almost all the moaning and yes. Yeah. Why?
I have no idea.
Is it Kirkorov's choice? Does Kirkorov dig this?
Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, the thing is that so far the delegation has been clearly going in the direction of keeping this modest, keeping this not over sexual. And then to go with this style of singing, I don't know. It's difficult for me to judge whether this is a deliberate choice. It almost sounds like she's out of breath, but that's impossible, because it's mostly at the first part of the song and not so much at the end.
And that's why I think it's a deliberate choice, because of the message of the song, to do it like this.
It's a big question mark for me.
Will it affect their chances? They have been all season long, for most people, Moldova has been a qualifier. Still, with the bookmakers, they dropped a lot. They are in 10th place for many of them. Could this even mean they will not qualify, Erik?
I just entered my top 10 of qualifiers, and she's in number 11. While she was all the time in my top 10 for a secure final spot.
It's always a risk. When you're here at Eurovision and all season long you had a song in your predicted top 10, and then you always have, at least I do, in the back of your mind, am I overreacting based on these rehearsals?
I know that's a big factor for you always. I think for me it's no. It depends on. I think it depends on how well do you. No, this I didn't mean it like that. The reason is I think if I look for myself, I think if we were all to make predictions in March, you would probably beat me. That's what I'm trying to say, because I have different tendencies when I look just at the studio versions, and I know that going into this contest, I come here with a list that's probably very incomplete, that may have 6 or 7 qualifiers, and I need to find that number 8 or number 9 by looking closely at those rehearsals, and I have to make those changes to be correct. And I think that depends on the tendencies and the things that you look at.
Iceland uses their backup tape, of course, so their performance is always the same. It's hard for me to predict how juries, but also televoters, will react to the emotional story behind it, because I think every commentator will tell what happened and that we are looking at a backup tape. And could it give some extra sympathy for an actor? Doesn't it play any part at all? Let's talk about it.
I think most people don't listen to what the commentators say and just watch the songs. So now they get to see a Eurovision song on a Eurovision stage. It's been taped 2 days ago, but people won't see it. It's backup tape like in Australia. So I don't think it will affect that much.
What do you think?
I think, yes, I think the difference or the impact will be quite small. If anything, I think it will be a negative impact because you could notice a little bit missing the vibe of the audience. Otherwise you may have had some audience participation. I mean, I don't mean before or after the song because they add that in. But during the song, sometimes at some of these performances, you hear the crowd react to but they won't be doing that on a live on tape, I think.
I think they will. Why should they not do it? Because they did it with all entries. So if they want to have an equal competition, they have to put this fake audience cheering in the at the end, yes. During the song as well. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see if that's going to be something interesting to take a look at. All in all, I think the impact on the result will be rather small because they did it on this stage.
What about Serbia? They're up next. Very, very much energy, but also a song and presentation that makes you wonder, could this be one of those entries with a big difference between the result in televote and in jury?
Exactly, and I think this is something that juries should not should not put too low. If you simply look at it from a rational perspective, like juries mostly do, it was actually well done. It was well sung. It was well performed, but it's the kind of entry that just antagonizes juries somehow. It has done in the past, at least, and I'm afraid it will do it here as well, even despite the fact that the presentation is so good.
We don't have to talk a lot about Georgia this year, I guess, right?
You want to talk about Georgia?
Next up is which country?
Albania.
Okay, so Albania for me was one of the best ones last night. I think that's something that can fare very well with juries. The only small question mark I have is it's a song with some ethnic influences. If juries tend to look at this more as a more traditional Balkan ballad in the style of Knez or Željko Joksimovic, then they're fine. If they look at it saying this is a very weird, out there, niche ethnic entry, they might disregard it, but I don't think that's going to happen. And the vocals were superb.
Yeah, she's impressive, right?
Yes, she is.
Then we have Portugal with the Black Mamba. And I think it was the best performance we have seen over the last 2 weeks. And they did it on a night they had to deliver for the juries.
Yes, and they were great at those aspects that juries care about, like at vocals, at some extra ad-libs that he added at presentation in terms of that solo that he plays, even though we all know that he's not actually playing that instrument. But it gives the performance some, in a weird sense, some credibility for juries. So they made it very easy for juries to vote this up. I'm still missing that emotional connection. But I know from our model and from our research that juries tend not to care so much about that. Televoters might, though.
There's one risk, Erik, I see with the Portuguese song, and that has to do with the sound of his voice. When you look at juries, because juries, there are 5 people, and you only need one or two of them who think, I really don't like this, and they vote it down, and it pulls down immediately the entire result, the entire outcome of that jury. Is that a risk you also see with Portugal and the jury result?
Not on this time, because it's the kind of voice you love or hate, and I think there's between juries, they focus more on the vocals than on the nasal sound of a voice or whatever. So I don't think this will affect him. And actually, I shifted Portugal into my top 10 while I thought it was one of the worst songs and least possible qualifiers instead of Moldova. So I've changed plans on this one.
You have a small break coming after Portugal. I think that helps them because there's just a little gap going into Bulgaria to contrast it still a bit. I think that helps them as well.
It does. It definitely does. And I think it helps the entire show too, because we've talked about it before that you have a couple of ballads in a row, 4 actually, which was uncharacteristic for Eurovision, because we know that the EBU tends to break up and get the seesaw effect in the running order. So in order to break up these 4 ballads, they probably needed that small break.
After that break, we see Victoria. Perhaps we still see her as one of the potential contenders for victory. At least Steve and I do. The bookmakers still don't. How was she?
She was fine. Her start was not perfect. It wasn't her best performances of all the ones that we saw. But I mean, she's obviously an easy qualifier. And then for the most important performances for her will be probably Friday. I think that yesterday she picked it up quite soon. It was mostly the first verse that she was struggling with. High notes all came out great. I still think this is top 5, probably top 3 with juries last night. Televote to come tonight should be an easy qualifier, and then let's see what half she draws. I think that's much more important for her.
Yeah, let's talk more about Bulgaria when we know the draw for the final, because she's a definite qualifier. Finland as well is a definite qualifier for me. Probably Erik, also one in which we will see that discrepancy high in the televote and perhaps not as high in the jury.
I'm not sure about this one. I think both juries will like it. It's a quality song, and juries will appreciate it. I think it as well.
Agreed on Finland with that?
You could make the case that juries sometimes like rock music too, but this is a rather divisive rock entry. I think it's kind of love or hate, and it's also very much targeted at a younger audience, whereas juries tend to go more for the outdated and older stuff.
We have talked about Switzerland already. Latvia and Denmark are the other remaining countries at the end of this show. What about the Latvian and the Danish chances, Erik?
Denmark is on the edge of qualifying, I think, just because of the draw. If it would have been first half, everybody would have said no final. But now that after seeing those 2 semis, I think semi 2 is the weaker one, and Denmark will profit from that.
What do they rely on most, jury or televote?
I'm struggling to see where Latvia will rely on at all.
I meant Denmark.
and Denmark, I mean, they could do very well with both. I would be quite confident to call Denmark as in possible number 6 or even 5 in this semi-final from this slot. Not that I think it will do anything great in the final, but they have the pimp slot, they have the potential televotes coming in. It's the kind of song that can surprise you how well juries will like this kind of Scandi pop, because it's inoffensive, it's a happy ending for the show, and the vocals were fine last night. So I think this could do well with both in the semi-final, and then in the bigger field it will probably fall down.
Yeah, and Latvia had one of the weakest vocals of the night, especially at the start of the song.
First 20 seconds were almost entirely off key, and I mean, you could feel the emotion that she felt finally being at Eurovision, and it felt like she was over-eager to jump into that performance and maybe overpowered it a bit.
Let's see tonight when we finally have the actual results of the second semi-final of the Eurovision Song Contest, and we will talk about those results, of course, later in our talk show, in our podcasts. You can stay tuned to everything on escdaily.com.